Born in 1970 and raised in Potomac, Maryland, Timothy Dean Sweeney is an American video game programmer, billionaire businessman, and the founder and CEO of Epic Games. He is also the creator of the game development platform The Unreal Engine. In many ways, Tim is like every other average guy. He likes hiking, fried chicken from Bojangles, the occasional Diet Coke, and of course tinkering with technology. However, if you dig deeper, you'll discover that Tim is anything but average. According to Bloomberg, the CEO has a net worth of almost $10 billion, millions of which he has donated to forest conservation efforts. His company Epic is also valued at around $15 billion. Stay with us as we explore how Tim Sweeney built a $15 billion brand. Tim was raised in a small town in Potomac. He was the youngest of 3 brothers. While his father worked as a cartographer for the government, his mother was the homekeeper. From a very young age, he developed an interest in figuring out how mechanical and electrical devices worked. As early as 5 or 6, young Sweeney took apart a lawnmower and later built his own go-kart. He disassembled everything possible just to see how they functioned. Radios, TVs, you name it. In the late 1970s, when arcade games began to become popular, Tim also took interest in them. He was fascinated by the back end of the game, just like the mechanical devices he tinkered with. And even though his family got an Atari 2600, Tim was more interested in what made the games work as opposed to the games themselves. He would play Nintendo Super Mario Bros. Just to discover what games were doing and how they were doing it. Ironically, he admits that despite the fact that he is a game programmer, he has not played many video games in his life and has managed to play very few to completion. At the age of 11, Tim visited his older brother in San Diego, California, at a new startup he was working at. His brother had access to early IBM personal computers and also taught Tim how to program on it. Young Tim spent the rest of his rather impressionable stay just programming on the computer and figuring things out. He learned BASIC and also established his interest in programming. Although Tim already had a Commodore 64 before, he was awash by how easy the IBM PC was to use. In an interview with Gamasutra, he said, "I started out with BASIC and then I learned machine language. I didn't know assemblers existed at that point, so I just learned the hex opcodes and typed them into the little debugger manually. I'd write some fairly complicated assembly programs, manually assembled. That was a crazy time." When the young lad finally got an Apple II from his brother, he began learning in earnest how to program video games. He tried making the Adventure 2 in the spirit of the Atari 2600 game. For a young boy, Tim was spending a lot of time learning. He estimates that between 11 and 15 years of age, he spent over 10,000 hours teaching himself how to program. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, he recounts, "I spent more time programming than I think I was sleeping or in school or doing any other one thing in the world." He was hungry for knowledge, and he learned using the information on online bulletin boards. According to him, he was able to complete several games, even though he never shared them with others. Apart from programming, Tim learned the concept of entrepreneurship from his brothers. He made a good deal of money as a teenager by mowing lawns for wealthy residents around his area. He charged half the price of professional services, and the pay was far better than what he earned while working at a local hardware store job. Even though Tim had an interest for computers, he enrolled at the University of Maryland in 1989 to study mechanical engineering. He believed that engineering was more challenging. Around this time, his father, who worked for the Defense Mapping Agency, gifted Tim an IBM PC. Tim started his first major business, Potomac Computer Services, a consulting business that never took off. And so, he dumped the idea and decided to create sellable games during his second year in college. He spent his nights and weekends outside his college, work coding. To get started, he needed to create a text editor based on the Pascal language to be able to program the game. And this became the basis for his full-fledged video game, ZZT. ZZT actually started out as a tool before it became a game. Although Tim was a gifted young coder, he didn't know how to program graphics such as actual characters and objects into his game. Instead, he opted to use smiley faces and symbols that would attack monsters and run through levels. He turned to college friends and kids around his neighborhood for feedback. He also needed to be sure that he could actually sell his game to other computer users. With that settled, Tim wrote to Scott Miller of Apogee Software to garner ideas on how to distribute ZZT. He wanted to adopt the shareware model to distribute his game. Remember, Tim's first company that never took off, Potomac Computer Systems, Tim went back to revitalize the business for selling ZZT, which was released on October 1991, and with the help of his father, he was able to fulfill mail orders. ZZT sold quite well, with a few copies being sold every day that came up to around $100 daily. Recognizing that he needed a better name for his video game development company, Potomac Computer Systems was renamed to Epic Mega Games, a name that Tim admits of being kind of a scam to make the company look bigger. Following the early success of ZZT, Tim began working on his next title, Jill of the Jungle. He soon found out that he lacked the skills to complete this alone, and so he formed a team of 4 people to complete the game by mid-1992. He also sought out a business partner for Epic Mega Games, eventually settling for Mark Reen, who was just let go from id Software. Reen managed and grew the company quite well. Epic began to grow rapidly, and Tim decided to drop out of college. He was just 1 credit shy from graduating. He moved back in with his parents in Potomac. But while you may think that Tim's trajectory is light years away from his mechanical engineering education, his time at the university gave him some much-needed tools that he didn't even realize he needed until Epic was off the ground. In 1998, Unreal Engine was released. It became the cornerstone of Epic's future business. It was also used in the 1998 first-person shooter Unreal and several other video games. Unreal was a PC-based game that allowed users to play together from different computers. ZZT sold several thousand copies, and Unreal recorded massive success. In 1999, Tim finally quit his side gig mowing lawns and was able to move out of his parents' house. Following the success of Unreal, Tim eventually dropped the Mega from its name. There was no longer the need to pretend. He also relocated the company to North Carolina in the same year and changed its name to Epic Games. In 2006, the Epic Games released Gears of War, built for Microsoft's Xbox 360 using the Unreal Engine. The New York Times dubbed the game as one of the best-looking games and also described it as a more deliberate, thoughtful sort of shooter with plenty of action and gore. Gears of War was a huge success, growing into a franchise with over half a dozen games. As of January 2014, the franchise had sold over 22 million units and made over $1 billion in revenue. The franchise was later bought by Microsoft for an undisclosed amount. Epic Games is also the brain behind other games like Shadow Complex and the Infinity Blade series. In 2013, a Chinese tech company, Tencent, invested $330 million into the firm for a 40% stake. And then in 2015, Epic Games announced that its Unreal Engine would become open source and free. This way, game developers could hop on and start working on newer projects. Unreal Engine is regarded as one of the most widely used engines in existence. And by making it free to use, the company began charging a cut whenever game developers and publishers sell games made with it. And this is where the real money is. Epic takes a 5% cut of all gross revenue on applications created using its engine, once they make $3,000 per quarter. And just so you know, Fortnite's main competitor, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, developed by South Korea's Bluehole, is also using the Unreal Engine. Speaking of Fortnite, Epic revealed that it was working on the game in 2011. It was introduced as a survival-style game with a smaller scope than Gears of War. The game, however, didn't launch until mid-2017. But September 2017 changed everything for both Tim and his company Epic Games. His free-to-play Fortnite Battle Royale mode of game found worldwide success only a few months after its release. It amassed over 200 million players across 7 different game platforms. Today, Fortnite has over 350 million registered users. And even though Fortnite is free to play, the company receives revenue in the form of in-game purchases. From character costumes to seasonal battle passes and accessories, each virtual product can cost anywhere from a few dollars to nearly $20. Fortnite has made well over $4 billion since its launch in September 2017. Ironically, despite his success and billionaire status, Tim Sweeney remains rather low-key. He's still single and doesn't have any kids. He's also not enticed by the flashy trappings of Silicon Valley. Epic Games is still based out of Cary, North Carolina, and Tim still retains his first ever job at the company, even though his responsibilities must have changed since the firm was founded in 1991. And so, Tim Sweeney went from mowing lawns to learning how to code. He released his first game, ZZT, at the age of 20 after 8 years of programming as a hobbyist on nights and weekends. From there on, he created Epic Games and the Unreal Engine, which currently serves more than 7 million developers. And of course, there's Fortnite, Epic's monstrously popular video game.